It's over. Erik Ten Hag has been given the tin tack by Manchester United. Manchester United now begin a new era. What they're going to do from here, who knows? This is the first major test for the new Ineos regime. Everything that has gone before is now over. This is totally and utterly on Ineos. It's a big day, a huge day for Manchester United. The timing of it is rather annoying, strictly talking from my perspective, because now Manchester United are going to be a new club, a club with a manager bounce that I did not want to come to fruition just as they are about to play Chelsea next week. But helping us go through this, helping us dissect exactly what has happened at Manchester United, the ramifications of it, is the wonderful Adam McCullough. There really isn't anyone better to talk to about this. Adam, Erik Ten Hag has gone.
Oh. I always remember when we were actually live doing the podcast when the news broke. So we got like an actual real breaking news reaction to it, and the feeling that I had was weird. Like I felt relief, I felt a bit of sadness because you know me, I have liked him and I have defended him quite a lot over the last 2.5 years. But mainly relief, but also a little bit. It was just like a little bit of a torn one. I hate seeing us go through this whole thing of, now we've got to rebuild again and go again with a new manager and hopefully turn it around. Now, obviously, that doesn't mean you have to stick with someone. And I think ultimately they've made the right decision.
That's the crucial thing I was about to ask you. Do you believe that overall this is the correct decision?
Yeah, I think it could have came immediately after the Spurs game. I think it probably should have come immediately after the Spurs game, because we had some winnable fixtures after that, on paper, obviously. But we had some winnable fixtures after that. And we kind of do now. I think they've looked at it and thought, if Ruud van Nistelrooy can take the next 4 games, which are Chelsea, Leicester twice, and the European game against PAOK, then I think 4 home games you've got a chance to try and get a spike in form, try and get an uplift in momentum, and even just feeling. I think one of the big things, you know, this going to games and stuff, and obviously being a Chelsea fan who have obviously sacked their fair share of managers. But sometimes when you're in the ground, no matter what's going on the pitch or the results, or you just know when a manager's time's up by how the crowd are reacting towards him, even if it's not booing, but it's over.
I think, do you know the other thing?
No one you just don't feel anything.
Yeah, it's apathy. I know the other thing that actually happens with football managers is, you know, sometimes you get a result and the result is symbolic of the end, whether or not you persevere and keep the manager, whether or not you decide to sack that manager in that exact moment, it's over from that point.
Yeah.
Like when Antonio Conte went potty off the back of the Southampton
Mourinho against Sevilla.
I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer at Vicarage Road.
That was his last game.
Was that actually his last game?
The one before that, there was a defeat. Was it maybe Brentford?
Right.
But you know when you just know the writing's on the wall.
Yeah, you just know there's no comeback. And I think that the result that ultimately did for Erik Ten Hag was the battering at home by Tottenham, because Manchester United, an institution the size of Manchester United, cannot be being cut apart, cut open, and have Van der Ven running through the
And it's one of those
team.
games, Tottenham, where it's so early in the season, so you expect something. Like, you expect the reaction. It's a big enough game for you to feel like we're in a game here today, lads. So you expect the performance. But it's also a game, no matter what form we're in, I expect us to beat Spurs at home.
Yeah.
And the performance was just so flat. And he kept using the Bruno Fernandes thing as an excuse. But if you watch the game, we were abysmal before Fernandes got sent off.
Yeah.
Like, the game was only ever going one direction, and that was Manchester United losing that game.
And the trouble is, he is now moving. Even if you just explore Erik Ten Hag's own contribution to Manchester United, like, he's actually going to go down since Ferguson. As in terms of his win rate, it's quite high. I think he's second in your list of managers. But last year he was averaging 1.5 points a game. That didn't get you into the Champions League. This year you're averaging just over a point a game.
He's also responsible for the top 2 worst starts to a Premier League season ever for us. He broke his own record this year, which is damning. He's also responsible for us going over a year in Europe without a win. And when you look at the fixtures that we haven't been playing. I know we played Bayern Munich, but we haven't been playing that level of club every week.
Yeah,
it's been Europa League this year, and it was,
Do you think the new ownership have done him a bit of a mischief, mate? Because do you know what they've done? They've basically made it very difficult for him to succeed. Because on some level, they didn't really back him. I know they backed him, and we can say, well, they gave him the job, but they didn't really back him, because backing him wouldn't have been giving him just a little contract extension. And it certainly was undermining for him through the summer when Manchester United were talking to Thomas Tuchel, when they were talking to Mauricio Pochettino, when they were talking to Thomas Frank, and they were talking to Kieran McKenna, and they were talking to Marco Silva.
That's where anyone who would listen.
Anyone that would listen, they spoke to those managers, which basically meant that Erik Ten Hag knew that there was at least some jeopardy around him keeping his job. It's unsustainable when a club treats a manager like that, isn't it? On some level, are the club and the new regime responsible for this demise?
Also, look, I was someone that thought, and I was saying it before the City game in the cup final, that he should have kept the job. Like, I did believe he deserved some time with the new structure in place. Maybe he's come too late to kind of benefit from that, but I did feel like he deserved some time there. But you are right. Like, what does that say to the dressing room? Like, that they've been interviewing all these other managers. You know, if you're just not sure about a manager and you're like, well, they've been interviewing people, so it can't be that far around the corner. You know what I mean? Like, there's an excuse to not perform almost if you're looking for one.
It also makes life very difficult what you do from here. I know they've given it to Van Nistelrooy, and I want your thoughts on that in a moment. But, you know, long term, the fact that you've already spoken to an abundance of managers and presumably concluded that those managers weren't better than the manager that you've just now sacked, like, where on earth do you go from here long term?
The options of running bare.
That reaction tells a story. The fact that that you had to resort there effectively to sound effects.
Being a horse.
Yeah, sound effects. Where do Manchester United go from here?
Nay.
That tells a story. That really does tell a story.
Because you look at the options they were interviewing last year, like you just pointing them out, most of them. The only one that still survived, like still not been appointed into a new role since then, is Thomas Frank. Ruben Amorim's there, Thomas Frank. Like, Pochettino's taken the USA job, Tuchel's taken the England job, Nagelsmann's not going to leave Germany yet. Who else did we chat to?
I mean, McKenna, and then it was...
Like, his stock doesn't look as high now. It would seem mental to appoint him at this moment. Graham Potter is someone that's been spoken about. That doesn't fill me with much excitement. Like, you're hoping Ruud van Nistelrooy actually turns into one of the best young managers in the world.
Yeah,
like,
I know.
Which is a hope. It's not an expectation at all.
Is this the worst position? Is this the worst you felt about Manchester United in terms of the direction of the club and where you currently sit? Like, I mean this more as more existentially, not in terms of league tables, sitting fairly low in the Premier League table and fairly low in the Europa League. Is this as bad as it's been almost beyond that culturally?
The reason I'll say no is because there's been points, like, you know, with Ratcliffe in place and Barada and Ashworth and Wilcox and all these people that we consistently reel off their names, whilst they're still unproven and there's still no guarantee they're going to be a success, you feel like they're doing things for the right reason, right? And before that, when it was the Glazers and Ed Woodward and John Murtough running about, you kind of felt like you had the wrong people running things and making these decisions. And now it feels like you've got the right people possibly doing it. So I feel a little bit more optimistic than I have previously. But I am just over this whole thing. I hate going through this whole procedure of now the new manager's gone. Now we have an interim.
Also, mate,
then we get excited for the new manager, and it's like,
it does sound kind. It does sound kind to you from what you're saying about this new ownership, because it's 115 days since they gave him a new contract that they've sacked him.
Yeah, but yeah, it's true.
115 days ago, they went, "You're the guy."
You could look at that and go, they kind of just, none of those people that we mentioned, apart from Brailsworth, is that his name? David Brailsford?
Brailsford, yeah.
And Ratcliffe were there. Barada, Ashworth, Wilcox didn't come till July. So maybe they've gone, we're giving these guys multi-million-pound contracts to make football decisions. Let's allow them to make those football decisions.
Yeah. I feel like,
but then why interview all those managers as well? Yeah. Kind of goes against
it. It's difficult, isn't it? Because I feel like Manchester United have actually got to the right conclusion. I think sacking Erik Ten Hag is the right thing.
They've sleptwalked there.
Yeah.
They've stumbled there.
Yeah.
It should have been made, as much as I like Ten Hag, it should have been made after Spurs.
And I would actually go a step further than that, Ad. I think that the brave and non-emotional decision would have been let him win the FA Cup and sack him then.
Real Madrid would have done that.
Yeah, Real Madrid. I think Manchester United in their former life would have done that as well. When Manchester United were the institution that demanded the best from the top down, I think that they would have done something as ruthless.
Can I tell you something as a Man United fan though? you know, like that old banner to Fergie, 3 years and
Yeah.
no excuses.
Yeah.
I do think that has had a big impact on the way Manchester United fans view things. So we're always going, that can never happen again. Managers can turn it around. Let's stick by them and hope they turn it. I think there's a little bit of that in it.
Do you think that culturally, it's interesting, mate, because I do like, I admire and I do find it interesting Manchester United's cultural approach to managers.
Yeah.
Like you do not boo. You do back the manager regardless. And I think it's a very interesting loyalty that you demonstrate. Quite an admirable one.
But it's one sometimes
quite
where...
foolish. Does it do you a mischief?
What's that thing? Sunk cost fallacy.
Yeah.
Is that...
Yeah. Sunk cost. When you've basically decided to back a manager even when you kind of know it's wrong because it's
you put so
culturally
much
what you do.
time and money and effort into it and I can't be bothered to do it again.
Do you think...
let's just stick by it.
In terms of long haul here, I mean, the managers that are available now, Southgate has constantly been linked. There seems to be a relationship with Southgate and
I look at like Amorim. Again, I don't know if these guys are the guys. He's coming from.
No, just your dream.
Coming
like,
from.
What are you hoping
I don't have
happens
any.
next?
There's no dreams left. The dream is we get Jurgen Klopp and wind up all the Liverpool fans, but that's not happening. Like the dream managers aren't available, are they?
No.
Like they're just not available. So you're then looking at a potential manager with potential. That's it. Ruben Amorim, Honus, Thomas Frank. Like that's the kind of level you're looking at now. Can one of these get it right? And that's why it wouldn't surprise me, which could be a mistake, but if Ruud van Nistelrooy was to go 10 games unbeaten, wouldn't surprise me to see him given the job.
And that would be so short-sighted yet again. Adam McCullough, always a joy to hear your opinions on this. Thank you so much for finding the time. I really, really do appreciate it. Adam's link is in the description below, so make sure that you subscribe to his channel. And I want to say thank you so much to everybody for tuning in. The new era of Manchester United begins right now. Is Ruud van Nistelrooy the right man? Is he going to lead that club back to former glory? And crucially, what impact is this going to have on Manchester United this season? Thank you so much for watching. Please do click subscribe. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll see you all in a bit.
Peace.